Oh my heavens. Oh, lots of links. Okay. Welcome to Let Hallie Read. This is my new YouTube BookTube channel where I talk about books and my general love for reading and connect with you guys. So I thought that the best way to start my BookTube channel would be to do the BookTube newbie tag. Okay, so let's get started. Why did you start this channel? So like most booktubers, I started this channel to connect with the community and just be a part of the conversation that's happening around literature, old and new. That's the simple answer. But let me give you a little background of why I really wanted to start this new hobby and really explore it. So at the end of 2021, I picked up Hannah C. Howard's Ignite the Sun. It is a YA fantasy, and it got me back into reading. Last year, I just could not find a book that excited me. Some books I got through, but it was a struggle, and some books I just didn't even end up finishing. I barely made it to 15 books last year, and I read a lot more than that. I just couldn't finish them. Luckily, Ignite the Sun by Hannah C. Howard was the first book that got me back into reading in general. It was also the first book that got me into YA fantasy. I've always been a YA dystopia kind of gal. When I was a teenager and in college, that was the types of books that were coming out. So I was really into them and not as much into the fantasy aspects of it. I don't know why, I just wasn't. But it sparked my love of reading again, and it made me want to dive into more YA fantasy. So I decided to expand my reading goal to 50. It really doesn't sound like a lot, but to me it is, because as I said, I barely made it to 15 last year. So 50 was gonna be a lot. I will say that I am ahead on my goal, so there you go. With all that being said, I am playing catch up. Part of playing catch up is getting myself out there and getting into the community and being a part of the conversation. That is the long version of why I'm starting this channel. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to YouTube? I have a very long list of videos, and that list just keeps growing, but I'm mainly excited to bring some genre diversity to BookTube. From what I've seen so far, and that is limited, a lot of the booktubers are talking about YA fantasy. I love YA fantasy. I will talk about YA fantasy, and I totally get why, because YA fantasy right now is just pulling all the punches. So I definitely commend that genre right now. It's been really good. However, I also love the classics, and I love biographies, and I love children's literature. So I want to bring some of that into my channel and just, as I said, bring a little bit more diversity to it. I also want to bring a little bit of everything to my channel. One of the video series I'll be starting is a Throwback Thursday video series, where every Thursday I'll publish a video and we'll talk about books from the past, whether that's classics or books that many of us read in middle school, high school, for my fellow English majors, college. You know, you'll also see videos that other people have made, different book tags that people have done, but I really like those. I like watching the same types of videos from different booktubers because I like to see what their perspective is. So you'll see a lot of that too. What are you most excited about for your channel? I'm excited to learn about this world. And what I mean by that is the filming and editing and finding my groove and trying to see what works for me. Because yeah, I'm still on that early journey of what that aesthetic is. I'm really excited to hopefully gain friends and talk to you about books and what we love to read and our favorite books and our least favorite books. I'm really excited about that. Why do you love reading? Reading has always provided me with a bit of escapism. No matter what I was going through in my life, books never disappointed me. I was able to go into these worlds and walk around in them and meet these different characters and find characters that I loved and find characters that I hate. Reading has always provided me with every emotion that I could ever feel. And that's why it's so addictive, you know? So I love reading. I think a lot of us on BookTube can relate to that feeling. What book series got you into reading? The book series I loved as a kid was Hank the Cowdog by John R. Erickson. My grandma took us to the library a lot growing up. She really fostered a love of reading in me and my brothers. I remember Hank the Cowdog being that book that made me excited to go back and get the next one. And so that really honed that in me. Of course, as I got older, I liked Sister of the Traveling Pants was one of my favorite books. And, you know, that turned into like Harry Potter, of course, and Twilight. And so yeah, it just kind of grew and grew as I got older. Those are the books that got me into reading. I was an English major in college. I have my bachelor's and master's degree in literature. And so, you know, that's a new question of what made you want to study literature. And I'd have to say Jane Austen and F. Scott Fitzgerald. Those are the first classic authors that I read that made me really want to study literature in a more academic and professional setting. While I loved studying literature, it did not leave a lot of time to read for pleasure. It's a lot of required reading, and some of it I loved and some of it I just couldn't stand. I'm looking at you, James Joyce. But yeah, I'm really glad to now read for fun and not because I have to write a thesis paper. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? I first want to give a shout out to 3 booktubers that I've watched that have inspired me to even start a channel. So one is Books Like Whoa, Murphy Napier, and Carrie Can Read. I've been following other booktubers, of course, but these 3 helped me have the guts to start a channel. So Books Like Whoa and Murphy Napier had videos that gave like tips and advice when you're thinking about starting a YouTube and booktube channel. Carrie Can Read is just entertaining. She was the first booktuber I followed, and she has such a very laid back personality, and you just kind of feel like you're in the room with her, and that's really, really nice. And it kind of made me think like, oh, I can do that too. Like, I want to make people feel the same way, that we're just talking about books and enjoying our favorite hobby together. So my question for them, one would be, have you guys read The Gray Shear by Kim Liggett? It's become one of my favorite books, and it's not for everyone, so that's why I'm more interested to see if they've read it and if they've liked it. If you haven't read it, please put it on your list. Give it a try, give it a shot. What challenges will be the hardest with BookTube? I don't want to get caught up in a popularity contest, and I always want to remember why I'm doing this. However, we're humans and we have egos. That can be a challenge sometimes. I obviously need followers in order to make this YouTube successful and keep it going and talk to you guys about books, but I'm here because of my genuine love of reading, and I don't want that to be a chore or something that I end up regret doing. When did you start reading? I think many of us on here, if you're a booktuber, have probably read since we were kids. I mean, I think that's what a lot of us have in common. But if you waited longer to start reading, or if you just started reading now, welcome. We are more than happy to have you. Where do you read? I tend to read in bed right before bedtime. I try to limit my screen time before bed, so reading is a better alternative, and it's also one of the only times I have to read. I will say though, BookTok and TikTok in general is really ruining my screen time at night, so I should probably do something about that. What kind of books do you read? Okay, strap in. You will find that I am a mixed bag when it comes to genre preferences. I also have very specific genre preferences, so here's the list. YA fantasy and YA dystopia, because I do kind of see those 2 genres, or I guess subgenres, as separate. I like the classics, of course. I, did a lot of classic literature studying, and yeah, so I love the classics. I love retellings of classics like Longbourn, which is right here, by Jo Baker. It's amazing. It's a retelling of Pride and Prejudice from the viewpoint of the Bennet's servants. It's so good. I like sci-fi, but specifically I like time travel. I'm not super into spacey science fiction. I've read spacey science fiction, but I more prefer time travel. Outlander, to say nothing of The Dog. I like when time travel books have these characters that have to learn how to survive in that time period. I also like historical fiction. I haven't read a lot of historical fiction, so I am currently looking for recommendations of some really good historical fiction. So please give me your recommendations. And I collect biographies. Now, do I always read those biographies? No. I've read some of them, mostly memoirs, but I have not read all the biographies that I have. But I like them on my shelf. Do you guys have that genre of books that you just like to collect, but you're not really sure if you'll ever read them? Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever make a dent in my biographies, but I love having them around in case I ever want to. That's it, guys. We made it through the BookTube newbie tag, luckily with barely any scratches on us. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you come back for more videos. I will be publishing on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. Central Time. Please like and subscribe and check out the description for the books I mentioned and the people I mentioned so you can follow them too. So thanks, guys.